what we did talk about last night on 2 tonight quite extensively was this horrible situation in North Carolina. It's become highly political, not a surprise. And although some people say, including Nina and Emma Joe last night, said we don't want to talk about race. Race has nothing to do with it. I just say with respect, and as I thought about it overnight, and I thought about some other prominent cases I've covered, race is playing a role in this. It just is. So we could talk about this the whole show, and I'm eager to hear what you guys think. But Dan, you first. Where is that story going? In other words, there's lots of debate about, all the various, aspects of it. But is this story sustaining, or by the end of the week, will this story have moved out of the news cycle?
I think it sustains in the sense that Trump is going to sustain the crime push, which ties to the immigration push, which is a question of who's going to keep you safe. And that is something where Democrats have been on a back foot, whether it's immigration or now on crime. The party kind of writ large is unsure how to respond. I heard it throughout yesterday, meeting with chief of staffs and other things, trying to advise their bosses, stay silent. No, you should get involved. And I think go back to 2020. One of the big things that Democrats would say, well, the reason they didn't take more House seats was the George Floyd social unrest and the images of Portland and these cities that were burning. Latinos and others, swing voters, it made them incredibly uncomfortable. They wanted law and order. They wanted somebody strong. And that's never been the party's strength the last 10, 15 years. So I think for Donald Trump, and I don't blame them if the shoe on their foot, they're going to keep pressing this. So whether Charlotte, this specific murder remains, I think it will remain in the news because there's video.
Yeah,
and it's chilling, and it's a young girl, and
yeah.
every parent thinks my kid that could be my kid looking at their phone, head down, kind of minding their own business. We all see crazy people on the street in almost every city. That could be my child.
And of course, there's a Senate race there, and the president's already put it in that context. Sean, here is Ro Khanna on X writing about what happened. 104, please. He says, even the mother of the murderer said he should not have been left in the community after his January arrest. We need to have common sense policies. People with serious mental health issues and multiple arrests who pose a threat should not be roaming the streets. Is that, Sean, you think the position Democrats should take? Does that go far enough?
So it's a multitude of issues here because it's not just that this person had mental health issues. They were 14 different times released. I think that that's to me a cop out because it's not like there was an issue with mental health and it just got overlooked or unseen. This person had a criminal record over and over again and was let out over and over and over again. And to see the Democratic governor of North Carolina try to use this as an opportunity to push his budget is actually despicable and pathetic. There's a media piece of this as well. The lack of coverage of this stuff that MAGA and conservatives are rightly outraged about how it's being covered is unbelievable. And again, I was reading Playbook this morning and them attempting to juxtapose this as a political issue is a cop-out because they're not acknowledging their own role. The media has largely acknowledged, has largely failed to cover this as a story. They failed to cover crime. They failed to cover Democrats covering up stuff. They have failed to cover up the fact that, well, everybody loves to talk about misinformation and the Bureau of Labor Statistics stats. When Democrats and their allies take crime statistics and do the same they minimize them. And then they don't report on that. They're complicit in this. So the media and the left have created this problem for themselves. And I think Republicans hopefully will drive it home.
Well, I disagree with that. I mean, crime has been a huge issue in mayoral races in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles. Like this has been an issue for the last few years. What I think has not been reported enough is, and I've said this now a few times, the Democratic attempts at police reform and crime reform coming out of George Floyd largely failed. Not enforcing small district attorneys who don't press small crime, bail reform, well-intentioned, but it's clear it didn't work. And the party now has been slowly walking away from this, whether it's bringing back stop and frisk in a lot of these cities, which they've quietly done, even here in DC and New York City. Again, Democrat, Mayor Adams is black. The mayor of DC is black. They've slowly brought this back quietly. The party hasn't wanted to reconcile with all of this stuff publicly. And that, I think, is where there has not been as much conversation. but I wouldn't say Democrats and the media have ignored crime in major cities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, the Democratic Party advocated defunding the police, decriminalizing several serious crimes, making felonies misdemeanors, and largely ignoring this, and then allowing the sort of growth of Soros-funded soft on crime prosecutors, and now suddenly go, yeah, crime's an issue. They've done everything for the last 7 to 8 years to actually minimize crime, to create a safe space for illegals.
Longer than that.
Well, no, but I mean, especially in the era of Trump, and to now turn around and act like, oh, woe is me, how did we get here? This is a problem that Democrats created. It was their policies, their soft on crime policies, their defund the police attitude, and to turn around now and act like they care is ridiculous. And the media has been 100% complicit in this.
Sean, I agree with everything you just said, almost 100%, pretty close to 100. Here's the one thing I would say. The press not covering this particular story should not be fetishized. It should not be the focus. This particular murder, as tragic as it is, there's 100 crimes, there's tons of crime. I don't want to give it a number, but this happens all the time, including black on black crime. Okay.
Correct.
So I'm just saying, I don't think the coverage of this case, for reasons both understandable and fine, like there's video and the racial component, I get why it's being covered. In fact, being covered more than most. So I just don't want to turn this into.
But who's
the press
the
should be covering this?
The press should be covering
the only
this
reason it's being covered is because of people on the right calling attention to it. I get it. There's a lot of people that die every day.
Right, but I don't think more coverage of this case is the answer. More coverage of every case is the answer. This one shouldn't be covered so disproportionately because it's unfair to the other victims of crime.
Sure, but when you look at who does get covered, this is the problem. Is it like so many other things? This is the perfect example for folks on the right to hold up and see. This is another example because you're right. The only ones that do get covered are ones that fit into the media and left-wing narrative, which is if it fits, if it's bad, then we cover it. But this is the same issue that happened with the transgender story in Minnesota a couple weeks ago. If it doesn't fit our narrative of guns are bad and white people are bad, then we won't cover it. And we saw the same thing. When the death doesn't fit the narrative, we don't cover it.
I totally agree with you. I just don't want the solution to be seen as obsessively covering this to the exclusion of the larger issues and other people.
That was a delicious video experience. I think you'll agree. Now, what you need to do in return for getting to enjoy that is hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss a thing.